And welcome to the Action Shooting Show. Tonight with me I have Mike Ford, who's audio only because he's not wearing a shirt and the world's not ready for that. I have Mark Redkey coming from the Canada Light up there in his Geisley gear, and we're gonna lose this. I'm Ryan Dixon, so there's a reason for this. We'll get into it, but tonight, all right, tonight we're going to be talking about Wolverine, the Wolverine 5K Tactical Adventure Race. So this is, I guess, this is the second episode that we've done a repeat on. We did Heartbreak earlier in the year. That's our second Heartbreak episode. This is our second Wolverine. So, I'm out of breath from that gas mask. That thing's hard to breathe in. So, the reason I had this, I actually bought this for the match. I didn't end up needing to use this particular one, but we did shoot with gas masks. So, I'm going to start talking first just about the flavor. This is a different match in our schedule. It's not a true run and gun. It's not a two-gun match directly. I guess it's maybe closer to a two-gun match than anything else. But you have shooting stages. I think they had 6 or 7 shooting stages this year. And then you have a land navigation / rucking portion. So it was a little bit different this year than last year. Last year, I think, was the kind of the exception because they had a water navigation and then a land nav part. This year it was just land nav. So lots of physical stuff. I don't want to say it's CrossFit like because the physical stuff's not necessarily like a CrossFit, but like one stage you had a pull up. Your team had pull up. See how many pull ups you can do. But it is a little two gun like, and there is some physical fitness stuff. We'll kind of get into that. So I guess that's the match flavor. The divisions are recreational, which is 25 pounds in your rucksack when you're on the land nav part, and that's pretty much it. For the rest of the match, there's nothing special equipment wise. And then nobody cares about, those guys are all competing for themselves. You kind of get it, but you're not in it to win a prize. You're not winning it. It's just, you're just doing it for the fun of it. We were in the hardcore division for the second year in a row. That one, your land nav, you ruck 45 pounds or more. And all the stages have to be shot with a plate carrier on. And they have to be 12 or 13 pounds in plates. I think 12 was the minimum. Does that sound right, Mike?
Had to jump off mute. Yep.
Oh.
It was a minimum of 12-pound with plates. If you went to do your pull-ups or something else and needed the weight, you could toss a mag on or something to get there.
Yeah, and the ruck, it could be just rucksack, or you could wear your plates. Like if you have a 15-pound plate carrier, then you only need 30 pounds in your rucksack. I don't think any of us did that this year. We all kind of just went with packs because if you've never done it, plate carrier and a rucksack sucks a lot. So we try to avoid that. Me and Mike shot this with 2 of our friends. Mark here, we didn't really discuss this beforehand, but you got all the questions there. Just kind of want to run us through some of that?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing, I guess, if we're rewinding a little bit before the match, how did you guys prepare for this? Did you do anything special? Was it your typical run and gun fitness, or did you try and add in some extra stuff?
I'll go first, and then we'll let Mike go. For me, nothing real special. Since about October, November, I've been getting into the gym and lifting 3 days a week. Typically, I've been running 2 or 3 days a week as well, 50 or 60 miles a week. Actually, leading into this race, beginning of May, my knees were pretty worn down, so I kind of took it easy and didn't run a whole lot. We rucked a little bit just to kind of get used to having weight on our back, but probably not as much as I would have liked to. And then something I've been kind of doing a little bit more of, the week before the match, so usually when I lift, I go in early to work. I do my lifting 3 days a week. I'm lifting on lunchtime as well, just to get a little, kind of hit other stuff. The week leading up to this, I just slept in. I didn't go in early. Lifting, really, I wasn't pushing any big weight or big for me. And I just kind of, I guess you call it a taper. So did some walking on a treadmill on hills, did some stretching, if I did weight, it was light, and it was just kind of about like keeping your body limber and, blood flowing. So it was just to try to be in, not hurt anything and kind of be in a good shape for the match. It seemed to work. I felt pretty good during the match, maybe a little bit weak a couple times. I think I was kind of fighting a cold or something, and that kind of slowed me down. But honestly, we'll get into some of the physical challenges. There was nothing there that like killed me. Last year there was a log you had to hold over your head. There was some weight stuff that really seemed like a stretch for me. And this year it really, I mean, I guess not surprisingly, you put in work in like the gym or running or whatnot, your cardio, your lifting. And while I'm still improving, it helps. So, well, what about Mike? I think Mike's, he's still kind of been recovering. So,
Yeah, this spring for me has been just kind of getting back into the shape I was in last year pre-surgery. And so I really enjoyed, we've had some good weather here the last month in Ohio. And so just did a lot of outside, like interval type training, some outdoor CrossFit type stuff. Let's see, 3 weeks before Wolverine, my gym at work finally opened. They closed it at COVID, so it was nice to get back in there. And I started doing morning workouts before work 5 days a week, and really enjoyed that. Saw some really quick gains for 2 weeks before I had to taper off for a week before Wolverine. So went in there feeling pretty good. Didn't feel really under physically prepared for anything but the pull-up stage. Still trying to get that upper body back and rebuild that injured shoulder. But I was pretty happy with the performance considering we had taken some time off rucking. The ruck felt good, had plenty of energy, could have gone a little faster if we had done our navigation a little better. But I think probably most of our Wolverine prep for you and me was at the range this time.
Yeah. And I guess we could mention a little bit of that. Shooting, I've been doing a lot of shooting. I shouldn't say a lot. Been shooting matches. I run a 3-gun match, so I'm shooting at least once a month. And so for this match, we knew that there was a precision stage. They designated, you wanted to bring at least one designated marksman rifle. I forget what the criteria was, but they did tell you would have targets from 300 to 1,000 yards, and that each competitor would be shooting it. So me and Mike got together. We brought out all our 6.5 Creedmoors because that's really the best gun we each caliber we have. And we kind of shot some groups. We found Mike's got a gasser that is an M5 like gas gun that shoots like a really solid with factory ammo. It was well under an inch group. And then he's got a Savage chassis gun that also shoots. It was a little bit bigger group, but it holds together as it goes further out as well. So we kind of doped those out, got them good and zeroed, figured out, which guns were the most accurate between ours. And really mine did well as well, but Mike's had suppressors. We thought that would be an advantage just, with the communication part. And went out another trip and doped them out to, I think we could only go out to like 500 and some yards, which was okay. We would have liked to have gotten farther, but it is what it is. And I know with Mike's gas gun, no, it was his bolt gun, I think. We shot like a .75 group at 500 yards with it. So that, we felt pretty confident with it. We kind of
0.75 MOA, not 0.75 inches.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yeah, that would be really, really good. Yeah. Under 1 MOA at 500 yards. Man, my numbers. It's been a long day, but yeah. So they held up good. We kind of scrambled. A friend of ours loaned us a rangefinder because we really didn't know. Like, they got targets out there. We're gonna have to, find range and engage. Like, what's the deal? So we kind of got that practiced up, and that was most of the prep, was just getting guns zeroed and kind of, ready for it. You got anything to add to that, Mike?
I think we had an interesting lesson in glass. You and I both run the SIG 4-16 first focal plane scopes for a little while now. I think I've gotten a little bit more time since mine's been riding on that Grendel. And I mean, it's even helped get us, me at a team event, a first place finish. But when we took the Creedmoors out, we had a little bit nicer glass, and it was just an interesting learning experience, seeing the details. And then when we were going in and shooting the guns side by side out to 500 yards, being able to see through mirage. It was a warm day with a little bit of a breeze. And so, yeah, some really cool lessons in that for us. We also got to see some really good trace, which we were really happy about that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and I think that was the other big reason we use Mike's gas gun, because mine's got the 4-16, and he's got a, was that the Razor? No, that was the Mark V, right?
Yeah, the M5 is running a Leopold Mark V 5-25 with the H59 reticle in it, and we ran a Sandman S for the suppressor on that. Then the chassis rifle is running the Razor Gen 2 4.5-27 MRAD with their EBR 7C, I believe. It's Vortex's version of the Horus reticle, if you really want to draw a comparison. And we put a Dead Air Nomad L on that, and that rifle was just an absolute joy to shoot. You didn't have to have hearing protection on, and you could spot your impacts. It was a pretty fantastic experience. I think we're going to end up taking that rifle and doing some like team long range matches with it.
Yeah, and that was the big. Besides the suppressor, we don't have a ton of experience like grouping with suppressors and whatnot. I've heard a lot about suppressors kind of helping guns shoot a little bit better, whether it's the extra weight on the muzzle or better transitional ballistics. But that suppressor, especially with the gas gun, helps it shoot a little bit flatter. And I don't think you didn't really need like 25 power scope for what we were doing, but a little bit more than 16 is definitely nice. Mike, you got your mic on still.
Sorry, dropping brass into a tray. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that for a lot of our shooting, we were running the optics around 16-25, but the field of view and glass quality is really what made the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the SIG glass is really nice. I mean, I wouldn't tell anyone not to pick one of those up, but it doesn't compare to, those scopes. So.
All right, so the next thing we got on the list is gear. We've talked a lot about gear on this show, but briefly, what plate carrier, what backpack, any other special gear, not great gear list, but that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone likes gear, right? That's how you buy your talent. You buy your wins. For me, I had a Ferro Concept Slickster. I run that whenever I need a plate carrier. It's lightweight. It doesn't add a lot of extra stuff. I've got a RDR gear, a placard that goes on there. So it's kind of, if I don't need a plate carrier, I just run the RDR gear with the harness. If I use a plate carrier, I've got that. It just kind of kills two birds with one stone. Let's see. Rucksack. I use the same thing I did last year. It's the Marine Corps' ILBE. It is entirely, I mean, you can pack way more weight in it than you would ever actually want to carry. unless you're a Marine and then you like carrying around way too much weight. Pistol, I was running my staccato with the Hollow Sun dot on a Chambers custom plate. It's what I've been running and run and gun for about a year now. And that did great, even though both years now I've managed to drop it in the sand at some point. That range is like that real fine, real sandy, but no surprise, it ran fine. And then just my 16-inch home-built rifle. It runs good. I've got the Athlon 1-10 first focal plane on it. I've been using recently. That's a pretty solid scope for the price. And one thing, a new addition to it, I did run a top red dot on it, the Burris Fastfire 3. That was kind of a last-minute addition. I've been wanting to play around with that, and I think when we get to one of the stages, I'll talk about how that was really a huge benefit. So, Mike, anything special with you?
Let's see. Plate carrier, I ran my Spiritus LV 119. Running a placard system just like Ryan. It's nice, easy getting in and out of. And ran the same ruck as I did last year, the Eberstock Gunslinger. I've really enjoyed that. It fits my my torso real well. And then for a carbine, I ran an 11.5 with a Yankee Hill Turbo K and a 1.6 Razor with a top dot, zeroed for 25 yards for easy holdover work. And that rifle did a lot of good for me on this match. And then for sidearm, I just ran my D45 with the agency slide, comp, and aim point red dot. So all good stuff. Worked as it should.
Yeah, none of our team, all our guns ran all weekend. I mean, I'll give this pitch, and I think we've probably mentioned it before, but just buy decent gear. It doesn't have to be super expensive gear. It just has to be middle of the road. Maintain it even a little bit, and it'll run. Like, don't keep dicking with your gear. I mean, I added a red dot. That's a small addition. If it didn't work, it wasn't a big deal. But people chase all the gear stuff and constantly changing bolt carriers and triggers and this and that and whatnot, and then their guns never run, and then they do crappy, and then they're like, well, I don't know what, it worked for the 20 rounds I put down range after I put the new trigger in. It's like, just run. It doesn't matter what trigger you have in there. I mean, I know the trigger I like, and if you gave me a mil-spec trigger, I just run it if I knew it worked. Like, don't dick with your gear.
All right. So gear sounds good. Yeah, we've talked about that before. Just run simple stuff. Usually simple's better. So describe the course. You said it's not a traditional run and gun. There's a course first. So describe what it means to do a course, what that was like, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so this year, and from talking to other people, this is how it worked in the past. You have a specific time to do your ruck. So I think it was 9 o'clock. I think let's say the stage briefing or the safety briefing was 8:30. Shots go live at 9. But starting at 9 to noon or 1 o'clock, they were spacing out teams to go on the ruck. So like our ruck time started at 11 o'clock. So for instance, that was us. So we knew we could get 1, maybe 2 stages in, depending on weights, before our ruck. And so we actually, and maybe from here we'll go on kind of chronological through the day quickly, but we went immediately to the long range stage that was there. It was early in the morning. The wind was still fairly calm, almost non-existent. And we kind of thought that if we're going to do this, let's hit the long range now. Up in that part of Michigan, the winds can really get whipping. I mean, last year they were a good, gusting between 15 and like 30. If I know that the wind's calm and there's a chance that it could pick up later, I'd rather shoot my long range now. So we got over there. We were actually the second team to get there. Our friends from the privateer group were the first. So those guys shot it, and it was our turn to shoot it. So I'm not trying to go into real great detail here, but we decided we were bringing both guns because they didn't say that you could bring one, or each of you could have your own precision rifle if that's what you wanted. We brought two. You had a 15-foot ladder to climb up. You had to bring all your gear, everything with you. So we had decided me and Mike would share gas guns, and the gas gun, and our friend John Shelley and Ben would share the bolt gun. So we kind of went in order. So I climbed up first with my backpack and some bags and different stuff. Mike had the gun. As soon as I got up there, he handed me the gun, and I laid down, started getting in my prone position, getting bags ready, all that. Mike got down next to me, and then we had John Shelley, and then we had Ben. And the idea with running two guns was we didn't have great spotting scopes. Our glass is the best glass we have on the scope. So our secondary shooter was our spotter, basically. So they had 4 targets out there. I want to say 300, maybe 500, 700, and 1,000, a little over 1,000. And they actually had the target sizes written down for you. So like while we were waiting to go up, we had our dope sheets out, and we just kind of marked, using our dope, what holds. 1.3, I think the first one was 1.3, and so on. So I got up there behind the glass. I got settled in behind the rifle. Our spotter got settled in, and we felt like our data wasn't great on this, but we did really well communicating. So like the guy, when he was on the glass ready, he'd say, okay, glass ready. I'd say, all right, ready, shoot. And then you had to call out what you were shooting at to the RO. So I'd say, like, they were all animal silhouettes, elk or deer. And he would say, all right, shooting at deer. And then, once I was there, I'd break a shot. Each target you got one shot at. You couldn't take a makeup shot. You had like a vitals zone that you got 2 points for, and then the rest of the body you got 1 point on. And so like I hit the first one in the vitals. The second one I hit in the body. It was actually a little bit low, so our spotter was able to tell me that. The third one ended up being a lot lower. So, we're noting that Mike's noting that on his sheet for when he has to shoot. And I don't think we saw an impact on the 1,000. So, and we found out our data kind of dropped off. We were shooting a little lower than we were thinking the gas gun was going to. And then as soon as I got done, I passed that gun to Mike, and the guy who was on the glass was now getting there, aimed at his first target to shoot, and Mike was getting on the glass. And it's the same thing. Mike's like, all right, glass is ready. He's calling out his targets, and we just kind of worked our way down that way, calling, helping call wind, helping call where it's hitting, and your other shooter that you're sharing a gun with was actually reading off your dope chart. So like when I went to the next one, Mike's calling out 2.5. So we all just dialed. So I'm dialing up to 2.5, and yeah, our dope was not as great, but we still had, each of us had 2 or 3 hits, on the 4 targets. So we're pretty happy with that. Anything kind of quick to add to that, Mike?
Yeah, there was 2 things that I took away from that stage. One of the guys, he was going to hold as it's a Christmas tree reticle, and then last minute decided to dial, and he was not familiar with dialing long-range optics. He's an infantryman and loves his ACOGs, and so he dialed the wrong way, so that cost us a possible impact with the chassis rifle. And then the gas gun info or dope really seemed to drop off past, it was like 600 and some for me. So I had multiple vitals and body hits, and then really once I crossed that like 600 yard threshold, even giving it a little bit more of a come up than what our dope was, it just wasn't there. So we're still going to have to tinker with the ballistics software that we're running, but we're probably just going to have to take a trip to one of our long range facilities in our state and actually get real dope on target and try to figure out why our software is not giving us good info. The chassis rifle seems to be a little bit more on than the gasser, and my guess is the 4 inches of barrel probably tweak the velocity just enough to true it up a little bit better.
Yep. Who wouldn't want an extra 4 inches, you know? Now, yeah, Mike's right. Yeah, and so our shooter he's talking about, our friend John, the secondary shooter with him, Ben was like, "Hey, did you dial back to 0?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I dialed to 0." Well, he went, if he was at like 9.3, if Ben was at 9.3, John dialed up to what he thought was 0. Instead of going back to 0, he went up to 10. So he shot at the 300-yard target with like 11.3 mils of elevation, which is, yeah, it was, yeah, he's lucky we're surprised he didn't hit the target behind it. So that's a good, illustration of knowing your equipment and the equipment you're borrowing. But that worked out well. So after that, we went to the second stage of ours for the day. And that one was basically they had like 4 or 5 drills set up. And this was a similar stage last year. Last year you had a log you had to hold over your head. It sucked really bad. And I don't know that any team made it through last year. When we were there, the first couple teams, like the 3rd or 4th position was as far as you could get. It just really, it was hard to get faster than that. I mean, maybe some other people did, but I don't think we got further than a lot. As your teammate was shooting the drill, 2 of the other teammates had to pick up a litter and with like a sandbag, a simulated body on it, and you had to go take it around a barrel and then come back and take it around that barrel, and you just had to do 1 lap while they were doing that drill. So if you ran and sprinted, you could stand there. If you went real slow, it didn't matter. The next shooter just couldn't shoot till you finished that. And that, the first one was like 2 plates, like a big one and a small one, and you had to flip a big tire, shoot both of those, reholster, flip the tire, shoot both of those, and you get a point for each one. The second one was I think they call it the Rhodesian Randy drill or something. It's 2 to the body, 1 to the head, reload, 2 to the body, 1 to the head, reload. They only count A zones, so anything you drop out of the A. And we say head, it's the little box in the head, not the whole head. So that was a challenging one. That one you had to carry like 5-gallon water jugs up there at first. I mean, each of them had like a physical thing and then a shooting thing. I think the third one a couple of our guys got to, was those battle ropes, like the big heavy ropes you had to flip a certain amount of time. They're pretty standard. I mean, the litter really wasn't that bad. We got permission beforehand. We kind of gamed it on the litter carry. When we came back around the barrel, instead of like a lot of people were like holding it there, it would like stick it down on the ground. We basically just set the litter up on the barrel so we didn't have to keep bending up and down. That saved a little time and some energy. But that was a fun stage. It was just kind of that's kind of the flavor of the whole match. I don't know. You got anything to add, Mike?
Sorry, seating a bullet over here. That was a fun stage. We got farther than I think a lot of teams did. It was just hard to get a hustle because of, even though it's close range, the precision element means that you got to pace yourself. Otherwise, you're going to miss. And with the way that match is set up, where you're putting very specific round counts in your magazines to trigger the reloads, and so you run empty before you move, there's no makeups.
Yeah, and I don't think I said it with the first one. They did scoring. I don't think they did it this way last year. I'd have to look back, but you would get points for like each hit, for everything you complete. Basically, every hit you're getting a point, and then at the end of the stage, they add up your team's points, and that's divided by 4. So it's kind of an interesting way to do it. I mean, I guess I'd have to do the math on how it worked out for just scoring it by points, but by dividing by 4, you're kind of averaging out. If I got 0 points and Mike got 23 points, you divide that by 2, it kind of evens things out. Kind of as we saw in the next stage. But you got anything to interject, Mike or Mark, before we go on?
Every team had 4 people, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think so. And if you didn't, they may have divided it by 3.
Okay.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, mathematically, it doesn't really matter if you divide it by 4 if everybody.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if there was smaller teams, that makes sense.
Yeah, they may have done it by 3. I didn't ask. I didn't see any teams of 3. There was one team of 1 because his friends backed out on him, and he's gonna shoot it no matter what. So the next stage wasn't a shooting stage. It was actually a, what do they call it? You're such a jock or something like that. And it was pull-ups, chin-ups. So you could do pull-ups or chin-ups, so hands in whatever direction you want. I think your team had 2 minutes, and each competitor could do up to 20 pull-ups. So, and that I think the most I heard was 18 pull-ups. I would be surprised if someone got to 20, because you're also wearing your plate carrier. So like mine's a 15-pound plate carrier. If you had the lightest, you're still doing pull-ups / chin-ups with 12 pounds. And again, it was, no matter what you did, it was divided by 4. And then I think they were rounding to the even number. So it was like if it came out to something weird, they were rounding down, basically. So we did okay at that. I guess that's my shining moment of this match. The only thing maybe I did well, when they announced that they were going to do this, I kind of set my goal to really try to crush it. And I've been doing way more pull-ups. I mean, I was kind of tracking them for a while. I mean, I had like over 300 or 400 pull-ups the months leading up to it, and most of those were with 25-pound weight, plate around my waist. So I did 15, which I was pretty happy about. I know I beat a couple people that I think are probably more fit than me. Not that pull-ups are good analogy for fitness, but I was happy with it. So it was the most on our team. We still did, I think our score was 6 or something, 6 or 7. We did pretty decent. So Mike, you got anything else to add before we talk about the ruck?
Nope. Let's roll with the ruck.
All right. Yeah. So we had decided to do that then, because after we finished, so, it's like 9 to the little 9:30, 9:40. We got to that next one. It was 10. So we finished that at like 10:20 or 10:30. So we knew our ruck was at 11. We did the pull-ups, gave us a little time to get water, get our packs ready, and then we were ready to do the land nav at 11. So the land nav, he gives you a map. They provide the map, and they give you the coordinates for your first checkpoint. And you have to use a compass and protractor and plot out that course, plot out that first point. And then using the map, you figure out how to get there. Last year, John did really well. He really crushed the land nav for us. His plotting out points were great. This year, we didn't do so well. And the 2 big issues, well, there's a couple issues. One, John's really the only one with real land nav experience. I've done some reading. I kind of have a basic idea. I'm like terrain association with a map I'm okay at, but the actual plotting out points, knowing your pace count and scale is just, it's not something I've done a lot of. Mike's done a little bit more, but it was a long time ago. I don't think Ben has any of that. So we were relying on one person. And a lot of what we did over the course of the next 4 hours, and you only had 4 hours, we barely made it in, was just, we really underestimated the distance we were going, how far point to point was, and the roughness of the terrain. So you could plot point to point, but you couldn't walk point to point. It was a very thick, dense woods. There's a lot of fallen timber, a lot more elevation than I knew was in the area. And a couple times we made the decision to just try to dead reckon from point to point. And if you've ever tried to do a pace count or anything, when you're constantly dodging trees and stepping over logs and going up hills, and we actually, John's, to his credit, when we, one of the points, I was looking at our plot afterwards, you're not allowed to use a GPS, so I wasn't using a GPS, but I set my watch on to just kind of track where we were going to look at later. And when I looked at ours later, between checkpoint 1, once we found that, to checkpoint 2, the dead reckon that he took, like, we were on course to go to it. We just highly underestimated how far we had gone. We thought we had found it, or we were in the area and we couldn't find it. And so we got back on a trail, and yeah, make a long story short, he got us headed in the right direction. Our scale was just way off in what we were doing. In retrospect, it seems like all the teams we talked to would point the plots and then use the trails that were all there. It was 3 miles, I think he said, about 3 miles if you went straight from point to point to point to point. If you took the paths, you ended up rucking almost 6 or 7 miles, I think is what some of the other teams said. We tried to shortcut it. That kind of burned us, and I think we only got 3 of the 5 or 6 checkpoints. So that really tanked our match at that point. We took too long out there, and we didn't get nearly enough done. John was suffering with he's got some knee issues that were affecting him with his hips, and it was just that was kind of the downhill for us there. So the real problem, which me and Mike are remedying, is that we're going to start really learning land nav, because that's a good skill to have anyways, and it's definitely unfair to a teammate, to expect that, John's our navigation guy, and it all rests on his shoulders. So we all kind of failed in that regard. I guess you got anything to add, Mike?
Yep, I agree. I think I'm probably a little bit more familiar with the Michigan woods than you guys, just because some of the time I spent up there in my youth. And to give the listeners an idea, you have some like open pine where you can see maybe 50, 60 yards with bearberries, which just acts like tanglefoot, and it hides any down trees, limbs, or anything. So you're jamming your toes, twisting your ankles. And then because it's Michigan, you've got massive areas that have been clear cut in the past. So you end up with a lot of scrub brush where you can't see, 10 feet in front of you. And just because some miscommunication and only one map, I guess we probably didn't do a great job as a team in supporting John in those estimates. And so next year we'll run probably 2 maps, 2 compasses, and then the other guys can be doing the decoding of the Morse code or tap code that they're running. And then I think our team's going to come out stronger than ever. I think that if John can get healed up, then I think next year we're going to crush the land nav.
Yep, I agree, and that's a good lesson. That's what these are for. I mean, I've done some reading because I want to learn land nav, and it just hasn't had the time to get out there in the woods. That's what I got the concepts. I know generally how it's done, but I just need to get pencil to paper, get some points, plot them out, and go figure out my pace count and start. I think what we'll probably do is me and Mike will get out there, and I'll go plot out points for him, and he'll plot out points for me, and then give it to each other. And it's like, okay, he's got to go to the points that I found, and I got to go to the points he's found, and just get that experience. So the one fun thing we did, the guy that was out there by himself, we ran into him. Not everyone had the same checkpoints. You had I think we were white, and there was a red and a blue, so that basically they didn't want teams just following each other to checkpoints. We ran into the single guy. He was white, the same as us. So for a little bit, we kind of went together, and he seemed like he was fairly good with land nav. So him and John were kind of discussing some stuff. I mean, we still were all horribly lost and made bad decisions together, but that was kind of fun, running around with him. He was a nice guy. So yeah, but we made it in a little bit before the 4-hour mark, but it was kind of all the time we spent out there and fighting through woods, and it drained our energy, and it just really set the tone for not getting as much done after the land nav as we would have liked. So yeah, I guess we can go on. We're kind of explaining the stages and all of the course. After that, we tried to get all our gear squared away. We knew we weren't going to be able to get every stage shot just because of how long we were out there. And we kind of decided we're going to shoot the stages that we think are the most fun. You know, if we know we're not going to be in it for the win, so let's just let's shoot the ones that are a lot of fun. So right after that, we shot the reason I had this earlier, we shot the gas mask stage. I guess I'm pretty sure they've done this in the past, but you shot the whole stage with a gas mask. I brought this one. I bought this at a surplus store because I didn't want to share the same gas mask that 30, 150 other people could have been wearing. And it turned out John was able to borrow some gas. I hope I can say this. He's able to borrow some gas masks from the U.S. military. So, we kind of practiced with that. In this stage, the top dot came in handy. I know we were trying them on beforehand the night before and kind of getting them all fit. And he's like, oh, just so you know, if you start having any problems breathing or anything, he's like, that there could be some residual CS gas on it because these have been used in classes. I don't know how thick that stuff is, but I don't think anyone had any problems. So yeah, that your team started. A lot of these stages were kind of similar to this. You had 4 different drills going on, so you shot at the same time. To the far left, they had these little exploding targets, just look like a little poker chip, like a 2-inch poker chip. They had sticking in the sand. So you had 2 barrels you shot off for that. You had only 3 shots to hit that. The kind of the drill next to it was a flamethrower. You just had a flamethrower hooked up to some kind of propane tank or something, and they had a target out there, and you just got to roast nuts or roast commies with a flamethrower. There's no points. There was nothing. It was just, they told you didn't have to do it. Like, it was kind of broken by the time we got there. Like, you don't have to do it if you don't want, but I'm not sure what red-blooded American doesn't want to shoot flames at a commie. So we we all did that. Next to that, you had 4 targets at different distances. And so keep in mind, you're all wearing a gas mask during this. You had to put 2 in each body, reload 2 in the body in each of them again. And the last one was a pistol. You had 2 shots. They had 4 plates. You had to put 2 shots on each one, kind of progressively getting further out there. To start the stage, they gave you a smoke grenade. So as team captain, I felt it my duty to pop smoke on that. So, you start the whole thing. They hit the beeper, pull the smoke grenade, and toss that thing. And then, you all go and you do your shooting. And the top dot really worked well for shooting targets because you could kind of get a cheek weld and see over top of it. And if you tried to get like a sight picture through like a scope, it was you couldn't have it on your shoulder normal. It was really kind of a weird position. So the red dot worked well for that, and shooting a pistol is about the same. So as doing anything with a gas mask is kind of uncomfortable and not a lot of fun in that way. But I really enjoyed the stage. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I was really fortunate and kind of manipulated my cheek angle where I could actually use my primary optic. So I was able to get that little 2-inch circle on my first shot. Was really happy with that. And then for the rest, transition to the top dot. I know I've probably espoused the benefits of a top dot on here before, but for run and gun or other competitions where you might be doing left, right hand, or awkward positions, that top dot over your primary optic can be really handy for that stuff. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Never, ever, ever pass up a chance to use a flamethrower. That's just, you'll revoke your man card if you pass it up.
Yep. And I had my top dot, and I think we were zeroed at like 18 yards or something like that. I kind of chose a distance like kind of between 10 and 25, somewhere generally around that, because besides a lot of bays being about 25, so if you're 0 to 18, if you got to shoot at 15 or 25, your holding dead center should get you in the A zone. So, and if you're not in a bay and you're just shooting up close, it's the same thing. That height over bore is a little bit less exaggerated. So we shot that stage. Oh,
I was just going to say one real quick thing is I know some people still like their backup irons and they don't like scope mounts that bolt on because you can't get to them. The 12 o'clock dot, if you measure height over bore and just do a little confirmation, I've taken that top dot out to targets to 300 yards. And yeah, you're shooting a non-magnified optic and you got a little bit more distortion on the microdot lenses. But if your primary optic would go down, a lot of these like Badger and Geisley mounts are pretty rock solid, the Reptilla. So you can do a lot of work with that top dot out the distance.
Absolutely. And unlike what he's talking about, like I got to flip a QD and take my scope off and then pop my my backup iron sights up or whatever, your dot's up there and it's on and it's ready to go. So I don't know, before we go on anything else, Mark, you got any questions or anything? You're muted.
Oops, sorry. No, not really. I was just going to say, we'll get to it in a second once you guys talk about the last thing you shot.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I think, we had only one other stage that we were able to get in. Two. Oh, yes.
Football,
yeah.
House.
Yep. So, there, the football stage. As we were driving up there, we were doing some, like, planning as a team. 3 of us drove up there together. We had to meet John Shelley up there because he lives in Indiana. And there was a stage where you're passing a football back and forth or up range. So we're going up there and they're reading it. And Mike's like, I don't throw football. And Ben's like, I can't throw a football. I was like, I have, like, I'm okay at throwing a football. So I'm like, I'm hoping John Shelley knows how to throw a football, which he did. That was kind of a fun stage. You started back on the 100-yard line. They had sleds, like wood sleds with a rope. And I think they said it was like 90-pound sandbag on it. And this whole bay is sand. So dragging the sled had some resistance. On the beep, you shot two in the chest, you just had to shoot the A zone. So 2 shots on the A zone, offhand, seated, kneeling, however you want. You couldn't go prone, but 2 shots with rifle, safe it and sling. Draw your pistol. 1 shot with pistol. From there, 3 of the people would grab the sled, would pull it forward. That 4th person had the football, and you ran to whatever distance you wanted, and that guy would throw the football. One of your teammates had to catch the football. If he caught it, wherever you were at there was the next shooting line. If he did not catch it, and whoever tried to catch it was the thrower for the next one. If he didn't catch it, you lost your turn to shoot there. You had 4 iterations to try to get up the field. If you got into the end zone, which was at like the 25 or 30-yard line, you got a bonus point of some sort. So, we went tearing off. I think we just counted like 5 seconds. Basically, I pulled that hard for 5 seconds, turned around. John threw me the ball. I caught it. John pulled his sled up. Once he got up there, that's your shooting line. And then the same thing. So they all pulled up there. He's counting to 5. I'm counting to 5. As soon as he turns around, I threw him the ball. He caught it. Same thing. So actually, we made all 4 of our throws and catches. I think each of us had to kind of dig one out of the dirt. I've played a little football when I was younger, not in like leagues, but just backyard football, and I think John has too. So we did pretty good at it. We didn't get quite up to the end zone. We were a little conservative in our throws, but we got all 4 of our iterations, which you get a point for every shot in the A zone. So the more shooting you do, the better your chance of a score. So I shot not great. Mike shot the best out of us. He had a score of 23, which we'll talk about a little bit later because that ended up being pretty significant for him. Actually, he got at least 1 or 2 pistol shots, and he got a pistol shot in the A. I don't think I had a single pistol shot. I mean, I think the closest you got was like, we maybe made it to like the 45-yard line or something like that. And I was there. I was nice sight picture. I'm thinking like nice even squeeze, and then it just, and then I didn't quite jerk the trigger, but you just couldn't keep it. You're tired from pulling stuff, and it was bad. Like, you think you're getting a nice trigger pull, and next thing you know, you're shooting nowhere near the paper. So I don't know. Is there anything to add to that, Mike?
That was an extremely fun stage, and I'm glad that you guys handled the football work really well. It's been a long time since I've tossed a football, and my little boy's still a few years from it. So, but good work on that, as everyone will find out later.
Yeah. Well, and I'll brag on us a little bit. Our throws were pretty decent. I mean, I'm not saying I threw them like everyone was a perfect spiral, but they were pretty good throws. So, all right. So last one, we knew we're running out of time. We probably got time for one more. And if you only got time for one more, we were going to do the shoot house. We ended up being the second to last team through the shoot house. The last one, they ran through it because they have like a drop dead time. 6 o'clock? I think 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock hits, and they're done shooting. Doesn't matter what's going on. I think they kind of pushed the limit for them. But the shoot house, each person went in individually. You couldn't see anything that was going on. You were kind of off to the side and blind. Each teammate had 90 seconds to go through. So on the beat, kick open the door, pop the door open, shoot all the shoot targets. Your main objective: shoot all the shoot targets. Don't shoot no shoots. Clear the house. Some point you're going to find a hostage or whatever, a friendly. You have to drag him out. They're very clear about that. And the reason, and I don't think it got any of us, is you kind of worked your way through. There were some shoots, some no shoots you couldn't shoot. There was like a hostage type target where there was just a head box. But you came around towards the end, and there was sandbags that you need to rescue. If you had not paid attention well to the directions and stopped shooting and pulled that sandbag out, there were still 2 other rooms with targets in it. So all 4 of us, we went and managed to finish shooting. You started with rifle. Once the rifle went dry, you finished with pistol. So we grabbed the no hostage target, pulled them out. There's a big bag full of hay. Each of us, I think Mike had the fastest time of the weekend on that. John Shelley was a couple seconds. I mean, no one was close to. I mean, what do you remember your time, Mike? They were all pretty comparable.
I think John Hutt was like 46 or 47. I was like 48. I only got John because he winged a no shoot.
Yep. And then, yeah, if you were 48, I was 53 or 54. They were all within 5-10 seconds of each other. So that was a fun stage. We did fairly well on him. Everyone shot pretty well. I think we all got mostly A hits, and no one dropped, many shots out of the A zone, and, went pretty quick. So that was our shooting. There were some cool stages we didn't get to shoot. They had a multi-bay or a big thing. You're kind of doing bounding fire, and then you all got in the back of a truck, and the truck drove, and you got to shoot targets on the move. They had another one that had some drills. You had like logs that you had to move to get from place to place. Yeah, we didn't get to shoot those 2. And then the third one we didn't get to shoot was another precision stage. We didn't get to see it, but you needed information that you gathered on the land nav to tell you what targets to shoot. And they did something similar last year, so we kind of knew what was going on. We knew, since we only really had 2 checkpoints, that it wasn't probably worth our time to try to do that stage, because we were down a lot of the information we needed to know. So that was all of our shooting. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we kind of talk about the closing stuff, Mark?
Just the one thing that sticks out to me about this is the gaming of it, is that you didn't get to shoot all the stages where they all weighted evenly. And if not, how would you know that? And then again, it sounds like to me, I know a little bit more about what's going on in the background, but why wouldn't you spend all your time shooting and just walk out in the woods? Well, we're lost. We don't know what's going on. Come back in and spend all the rest of the time shooting. Why would you screw around out there for 4 hours when you could be back shooting? That I don't understand. And maybe it's not clear in the rules about how you should approach it, but it seems like there's clear gaming involved here. And
Not Yeah, not really. So your score, and they're pretty. I think they were a little more clear about score this year. Maybe we just didn't pay attention last year. They told you what the max points were for each stage, so you knew this is a 55 points, whatnot. The way they score this event is actually with just time. So you have however long it takes you to do your ruck. That's your time. So if you haul butt and you get through the whole thing in an hour and 20 minutes, you've got your max, that's your time. Every point you get shooting the stages takes, I think it's like a minute per point or something like that. So, and this was this way last year. The winning teams are actually in the negatives. So the team that won this year, I think they've won it 2 or 3 times in the past. They are, maybe Mike can correct me if I'm wrong about this, they're active Green Berets, I believe. We talked with them a little bit. They're really nice guys, but they absolutely hauled ass on the ruck part. And then they shot amazing too. So they end up, having a big negative point. Yeah, there's gaming, and I'm sure that those guys went fast at everything and probably got all of the stages shot. If you didn't have it, you could see what points were, and you could play it that way. Or if you knew you had like a strength, you could play it that way. But really, I think the top teams are crushing the ruck. They're crushing every stage, and in that case, the best team wins.
So what happens if you didn't find all your checkpoints? Was that a penalty on top of your 4 hours, or was it you got 4 hours and you just didn't get that info? Because again, it sounds like go out there, find one, come back in, and get to work shooting.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't win. They did state in the rules beforehand, you could not be the winner if you did not get every checkpoint. So you get points for, they had some like side challenges things, like you'd get to this, checkpoint 3, and they would give you another set of coordinates that was kind of close by, and you get points for that. So if you didn't do all 5 checkpoints, you were going to miss some of those extra side challenges, I guess, and you're going to miss out on some points on that. You're also not going to get all the info you need for, like I said, that one stage was, I think it was 50 points. It was the highest amount of points. You needed information from each checkpoint to successfully shoot that. So yeah, I guess if you wanted to game it, you could like skip a checkpoint or do whatever, but that was going to affect your points in a number of different ways. So I don't think besides that they said you had to get all the checkpoints to win it, I don't think even saying like, well, I don't care if I get first, I'm going to game it and just get second place. Like, I don't think you could, point wise, I don't think it would make sense. The other thing is most of the people that are doing this are in it for the abuse. So, yeah, gaming as far as like, I'm going to pick the gear that makes sense to do the best at the challenges. Like, I'm going to game it in that way. And if I got a short, like us resting the litter on a barrel, like if I have to do less work, I'm going to do that. But that's just like, why wouldn't you?
So you'd say you do that stuff, but you wouldn't go down to Fort Benning and become a ranger. You do the easy stuff, right? That's kind of what you're.
I'm definitely not ranger material. So no, I got a lot of respect for those guys, and I don't know if you can draw a transition between it, because we do shoot a lot of these matches with different special force people, the running guns, and not all of them are winning matches. But when it comes to matches with fitness and shooting skills and challenges that you have to think and use your brain. I'll say I've noticed in general the special forces guys tend to do pretty darn well. I mean, maybe they're not winning every shooting stage. Maybe they not, maybe there's a guy that's running the land portion faster, but like as all around competitors. And I mean, the idea that these are not just a competition, but it's testing skills. Maybe you can use them out in the real world. Maybe they're not things that you use every day, but I would say from what I've seen, most of them are fairly skilled, smart individuals. So I would say that if you're a ranger, you probably you got a pretty decent advantage. I know all their fitness is incredible usually. I mean, I've never met one that probably couldn't bench press our team all at once.
You're never saying you haven't seen a ranger that looks like me? Is that what you're trying to say?
Not so much, Mark. They're not as good a shape as you.
Right. All right. So we're in an hour. What are kind of your wrap up, your last things that you're thinking about? What your takeaways? We've talked about what you guys want to improve. The land nav is going to be the big thing that you're going to come back with. But what else? Last kind of thoughts and feelings.
Well, yeah, the one more thing before, because we're waiting for the scores to come out, which we didn't expect much out of that. But as we're waiting, we're putting gear together, we're tearing stuff down. I hear them call our team name. Yeah, we need someone up here from Return to Death Otters, and they were calling another one out. So I went up there, and he said, "Who was your third shooter on stage, whatever, the football stage?" And I said, so we're like, third shooter? I was like, "Oh, that's Mike." So Mike comes up. They call another guy up. That was a sponsored stage. Each Mike and this other guy had 23 points. So the first thing he said, "Have you guys started drinking yet?" And no, neither of them had started drinking. So, because they don't know how to party apparently. So for the win, so to break the tiebreaker, there was a plate rack. They were going to shoot a plate rack at 15 yards, which Mike goes to get his gun on. This other guy goes to get his stuff. Me just watching, I'm feeling pretty confident for Mike. There are certainly better shooters of pistol out there that weekend, but Mike is a very, very solid pistol shooter. And he's shot enough of these. He's gone head to head and stuff. He's not a head case shooter. Like, he doesn't get rattled real easy. So he gets his gun. He's doing some dry fire, he's getting going. So they get up there, and the other guy is going to go first. So we see him pull out like just a single stack 1911. So we're like, "Oh, okay, this can go kind of either way." If you hung around
it was a Colt. Obviously, he knew how to use a rifle to get to there. And then he pulls out a single stack Colt. And I'm like, there's two types of 1911 owners. There's the two World Wars, and then there's the people that know how to drive them like a Corvette.
Yeah, so I'm a little nervous for Mike, but like I said, Mike's solid. So I was talking to some guys there that didn't know us, and I said Mike's got a pretty solid chance of winning this. Like, he's a good pistol shooter. So the guy starts shooting. I can't remember if he hits the first plate, but then it's miss. Low on the bottom bar, miss. This hits one, miss. And I felt really bad for him because, some of the guys, everyone's drinking, they're having fun. They're kind of razzing him, miss faster. And he goes through a reload. And I'm just like, okay, well, at this point, I told some, I said, at this point, if Mike doesn't win this, he's walking home because I'm not going to drive him home. Because the guy ended up doing it in like 39 seconds or something. I mean, it's just a 6-plate rack, and I think
he left the plate up too.
Yeah, and he left the plate. I mean, he ran out because he only had 2 mags. It's like 7 or 8 round mags or whatever. I mean, I don't know the guy. I felt bad for him. He may be a great pistol shooter regularly, and just the pressure of it got to him. But Mike stepped up there, and I think he did it in a comfortable 9 seconds. Bing, bing. I think he dropped 1 shot. But so Mike won. It turns out he won a Type A rifle company rifle. So he gets that. He gets to talk to them about that. That was pretty cool. I want to thank some of the sponsors because they had a random draw prize table. I normally don't do amazing at them, but I ended up getting called one of the first like 4 or 5. And as I'm looking through, there's some certs there, and I pulled a cert for a Thunder Beast suppressor. So, I want to thank Thunder Beast. I wish I had a list. Trigicon sponsored it, I think, because I saw some of their stuff. I saw like a Magneto Speed. I know those guys at Type A, MDT, a bunch of people. I wish I had a list for all of them. So thank all those people. But yeah, especially Thunder Beast, because they make, when I was looking at what can I wanted, that I think 1200 is about as cheap as you can get their can, on up to 2000 something if you need a massive can for a 338 Lapua Magnum. But yeah, so that was cool. Takeaways. Fitness was good. I'm happy about the progress I'm making on that, so I'm just going to keep chipping away at that stone. Shooting was okay. I could always shoot better, but I really just don't have the time to do much dry fire with what's going on in my life, so I just kind of accept that I'm shooting at the level that I'm shooting at. Land nav is a high priority, and we'll crush that before next year. And team, we worked well on all the stages. When there was teamwork to be done, we communicated well. We did what we should. So that's kind of the fun of these team matches. And yeah, I was happy with our team. We've all got lives. None of us are, we've all got families, kids, and it's, this is our fun. It's hard to go out and really crush it and have the time to put into it to do that. So the guys doing that are putting in a lot of work, and we're not at that stage. So we just, sometimes we hook up, and last year we were 9th. We did pretty well. This year it was like the total other end of the spectrum. So it is what it is. What about you, Mike? What takeaways do you have?
I had a lot of fun. As always, they put together a really unique match, and I couldn't think of a better group of guys to just hang out with and do it. John is a fantastic friend, and I'm really glad that we get to hang out with him occasionally since he moved on us. And Ben, he's a fantastic guy and well rooted in the run and gun community. Everyone knows he's absolutely just a fantastic individual. So anytime I get to spend with you guys is a win in my book. And I really appreciate y'all's support with your fantastic football skills. And yeah, I want to definitely thank Type A for sponsoring that. It's a really unique opportunity, and I'll be contacting them this week to see about getting a rifle from them. And I might have to let Ryan use that since he did a great job playing catch. But looking forward to going back next year. We'll square away our land nav a little bit better, and and probably square away our long range a little bit better. But it's going to be a good time. Can't wait.
Yeah, and I guess before we close, the one thing I want to say about this match, and I don't think we really give it justice, and like me and Mike are pretty fit guys. John and them are not, Ben are not out of shape by any means. This match is really like the amount of stuff that you do on each stage and the pace that you have to do it in. It's kind of a grind, like it's a pretty grueling match. Like it really grinds on you as far as like physically, you're just getting beat more and more throughout the day. So it's fun. It is a challenge. In some ways, I think it's more taxing than running guns, where like a running gun, I've got like a 10K. Maybe I've got a 2 or 3 or, a 4-hour, if you're really like taking it easy on the course, of like exertion. Whereas like from the beginning of the day to, 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whenever they end, you're just going the whole time. And if you want to get all the shooting done, there's not like rest time. So if you try to sign up for this match next year, if that sounds fun to you, if you kind of like getting ground into the ground, throughout the day, and that's your personality, that type 2 fun, then I've absolutely do it. But I'm not saying you have to be the most fit person. And like some teams just, I know they were joking around, like the recreational teams after the ruck, they shoot less and less, because it's just, it's a grinding match. And it's sand everywhere. The whole ruck was sand. So if you think about like walking on the beach with 45 pounds or with a plate carrier and gear, like it really wears you down. So that's what we like about it. They make it intentionally challenging, and they do the match director of that and the team up there at MTC do a great job. I mean, they really do. It's a fun match, but if you do like a running gun and you like walk the course in 2 hours in a 5K and you're like, oh, this sounds like, yeah, that's up my alley. Maybe not, don't just be prepared that you're going to be really physically challenged through the day. So any more questions before we get out of here, Mark?
Nope, you hit it.
Okay. I want to thank our sponsor, Primer & Co., for sponsoring this. As we thanked all the sponsors, that we knew from the match. If you happen to see any of the sponsors, buy their stuff, thank them. I'm going to be thanking Thunder Beast for sure. I've got my Dominus SR on order now, so I'll be getting that, and maybe I'll do like a review or video on it or something for the page when it comes in, just to kind of show people what they do, because if you're not familiar with Thunder Beast, in the precision world, they're one of the better cans, and they make a light, quiet, really nice can. So thanks for sticking with us, and have a great night.